If you're like me, you've got contacts in every single possible format. Email, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And it's becoming harder and harder to stay on top of them. To help me make sense of this mess, I use Smarter Contacts, the free app that automatically creates rich profiles for all my contacts right on my smartphone. The thing I love most about this app are the rich profiles it creates. I can see photos, job titles, company details, and updates from social networks all in one place, all in context. This is a free app and available on all mobile platforms. Head to www.untether.tv/smarter to download it today. This is M-Pulse, episode number 7. And we're recording this live on Sunday. I think it's actually February 23rd. You know what? It's almost summer here, it feels like it, Peggy. I don't know what it is about February and optimism, but we're near the end. In Canada, that means that the ice is breaking, the snow is melting, and we are in better moods. How about you?
Oh, absolutely. We had snow, we had freezing temperatures. I'm sure you heard the news about it, snowing in Africa, in Italy, in Spain. And it's all melted, all looks good. I took a look at my garden today to see what survived. Interestingly enough, the plants out of Siberia were doing really well. Tells you something there. I do have some plants, Russian plants. So yeah, it's looking good. And when I get back from Mobile World Congress, it's going to be a totally different world. It's going to be great.
It is, and both sides. And obviously, this is the show. We just don't talk about the weather, but I'm Canadian, and weather is always top of mind. But this is the show we dive into some of the trends that we're seeing in the mobile industry. We talk to some mobile experts about the things that are moving the mobile industry, and of course, you've got your co-hosts here. My name is Rob Woodbridge from Untether.tv, that resource you probably should go to find out what the mobile world is up to. Over 350 long-form interviews with some of the world's most imaginative and ambitious mobile entrepreneurs that are out there. Some great lessons learned. And I'm in Ottawa, Canada, on this side. And over on the other side of that Atlantic Ocean, I got Peggy Ann Saltz. Talk about yourself for a second, Peggy.
Okay, over here at Mobile Groove, and I'm based in Germany, originally from Pittsburgh. I've been here for over 15 years, and I've watched the industry from day one. And I do analysis of the industry, reports, bespoke research, books. I have a great book that's going to kick off right after Mobile World Congress, a thought leadership book about mobile marketing, mobile advertising, best practice. I'm really excited about that. A lot of other projects coming up, and of course our great show. And you didn't mention, Rob, that your show is going to be coursework in a university course as well. And we'll have more about that later when I have the details. But I heard that and thought, yes, this is required viewing for students watching and trying to learn about mobile. So that's awesome. We have a great show.
It's like that one moment my parents will be proud. They always wanted me to be teachers. Here you go. Well, of course, you can find Peggy at mobilegroove.com and at Peggy Ann on the Twitter world. And I implore you to follow her and go and visit the website. And you'll learn a ton. If you're not following Mobile Groove, if you're not visiting there, you're missing out on some of the most important stuff. We're trying to bring that to light here, and certainly we're doing our best. Episode number 7. Today, this episode, we've got some great stuff. We're finishing off. One of the big things is that the themed month this month was voice and the impact that voice is going to have in the mobile industry. And we're finishing off today this series, and we're kicking off a new one next week. But this week we've got Kenn Harper, who is the Director of Product Management for Nuance Mobile, and we dive into everything. It's a great conversation around the impact that voice is having on the mobile industry. We talk about security, we talk about privacy, we talk about how it's being used in the mobile device today. Great episode featuring Kenn, and that'll be later on in the show. I really had a blast with Kenn. Great insight around the space, especially Nuance. It's a company that is not new to voice, which I love. They have that perspective.
And I won't cut to the chase, but my favorite part is understanding the larger business model around voice, mobile voice. I didn't expect that. That was my highlight. So it's really worth listening into. You won't get this inside take anywhere else.
No, you won't. No, you won't, because we
you have to ask the delving questions that we did, and we got him to talk about it.
We ask them those questions. They're deep questions and very important answers. So listen to this, and I would go back across the whole spectrum of the guys that we've brought on, and take a look. It paints a great picture for what's happening in this industry. And if you are an entrepreneur in this space, you really want to know what these guys are thinking, where the research is, and the impact that they think it's going to happen, and where they think it's going to have that impact. So, looking forward to you should be looking forward to having Kenn Harper, listening to Kenn Harper later on in the show. Of course, what we kick off with is very clearly we are working on. So we take, I don't know, a pulse of what's going on in the community, in the mobile community around the world. You get two different takes, and we always kick off the show with this. And I'm gonna let Peggy go first this time. It was my turn last time. We're gonna get into some analysis. We'll get into Kenn's interview right after that. I raise my goblet of rock to something that is the coolest thing you've ever seen.
I agree.
The coolest thing you've ever seen. Mind
really
control at the end of the show, so you got to stick around for all that. So, Peggy, why don't you start? Let's talk numbers.
Okay, that's what I'm here for. I'm into analysis. I'm into the deep numbers, and in the roll up to Mobile World Congress, where I'll be spending at least 2 days at the App Planet, which is dedicated to apps. It just sort of makes sense to take a look at those app numbers and get an overview of what's going on over here. And so what's interesting is on the back of some numbers out of the States, because Amazon App Store is only available in the U.S., so it can't be that I can add some highlights from Europe on that. We're seeing a fourfold, or rather just let me check here because it just came in.
Hot off the presses.
14-fold. I'm sorry. Just came in some news from Distimo about the Amazon App Store. So we're seeing that take off, because of Kindle Fire and others, devices we don't have here yet. So I won't go down that road. But from my friend and colleague, esteemed colleague over at Zyologic, which is another company out there, but with a very different view to the app downloads, very different way of tracking it, own technology, own products coming out soon. We'll get to that. I might raise my goblet of rock to Mateusz Krzyzkowski and the great guys over at Zyologic. But in the meantime, today, very considerately, they've sent me on embargo some numbers, so I will have to read them because I haven't had time to memorize them when it's that hot off the presses. But they're looking at just that reality check. Is Android doing better than Apple in Europe and outside of US? And so you need to have a different view, and you also need to have a different source. So I highly recommend Zyologic. I read their numbers, and yes, we're seeing that you can add 3 more countries now to the number of countries where Android is pulling out in front of Apple. So we have UK, Germany, and Russia as of now. And we had before, so the numbers, to tell you just the countries they track and the numbers, there's Czech Republic, Poland, Portugal. In October it was Brazil, and in November it was Spain. Then we add 3 more, so we have quite a number of countries where the downloads of Android outpace the downloads of Apple iOS apps. And just some numbers, and again, I have to read them, so I'll look down. UK, for example, we have 99.1 million app downloads on Android compared to 90 million iOS. Germany, it's 64 for Android, 59 million for Apple. And Russia, 49 million for Android, and iOS is 38 million. And also very interestingly, and that's where you see some opportunities, just to wrap that up, is again, confirmation of what we thought all the time. It's about local content. It's about local apps. It's about local innovation. And I find that very exciting because that means that then there's a chance for all of these companies, many of whom I hope to connect with at App Planet rather, to say, you can get involved. There's something to do out there. For example, in Germany, it's a lot of local content. Russia, a lot of local content. Makes sense, it's a different language. But again, great numbers from Mateusz, and I'll be keeping up with those and bringing you more as he brings them out, and they're worth following at Zyologic.com.
I love that. There's argument to be said here that, because Apple has just the 3 devices, basically, the iPhone, the iPad, as well as the iPod Touch. It's pretty staggering the amount of volume that they do when it comes to apps and downloads with just such a limited number of devices compared to the Android world, which is, you name it. You know, how many handsets are they on worldwide, and from the cheap to the expensive. But it's going to be an Android world, and just because of the sheer pervasive nature of Android operated tablets. Because, I mean, the Kindle Fire is an Android tablet with a great skin, but every day there's a new Android device coming out that's attacking it. I did read, where was it, a report that said Android developers, and we'll get into this, I'm sure, when we move into our developer week next, or developer month next month, that Android developers are seeing better returns from their Amazon Kindle store than they are from the Android marketplace, which is an interesting thing. And we should be looking at that as well to see if there's any kind of correlation. But Amazon understands retail, and I think that's the big difference. So very cool. Very cool.
At the end of the day, it is a business, and that will come out when we speak with Vision Mobile next time around in our next program.
I love it. Well, you know, almost in relation to that, about the revenue side, I look at this. I look at this industry from a North American perspective, and for those of you who have ever listened to anything that I've done or read anything that I've talked about, is that I like to push and prod around this industry to make sure that we're doing the right things for this industry, to make sure that it's a healthy industry, the mobile space. So when I get an opportunity to dive into something like mobile advertising, for example, you know, I'm very critical about the way that we embrace mobile advertising, the same way that we embraced web-based advertising, banner ads and display ads. You know, there's something to be said for companies that think a little bit more innovatively around how they use mobile as a marketing and advertising vehicle. But the laziest of lazy right now is the banner ad, and taking a 320 pixel banner ad or a 600 pixel banner ad from your website and bringing it down to a 320 pixel banner ad into a mobile device and not doing any follow through on the back end, just a straight click through to your website, is lazy marketing. And I always wonder about this, because we're in a race to zero around the cost of a click through or a display in on the web, and we're doing that even faster heading towards that faster in the mobile space. So I always wonder about companies like Opera, the browser company, that buy ad networks. They just bought 2 ad networks. They bought Mobile Theory and Fourth Screen Advertising. One's a North American company, one's a European company, and all they do is feed ads, and they're display ads, they're banner ads on mobile devices. And you know, they could spend up to $60 million if if the earnout kicks in, and that is interesting in a way that we're racing to zero. Look at what Apple's doing. Apple just cut down their iAd spend to a minimum of $100,000. It used to be $1 million. They're realizing that it's just not sustainable the way that they're doing it. Even Google has reduced their pricing.
They're doing it closed too.
What's that?
Put that on top. It's very much a closed approach from Apple. That's what that's telling us as well.
It is. It's not working. And then you've got Google the same way, reducing their prices to kind of mop up more people and more advertisers while they can. They're fighting over this pie, which Google owns, which is about $750 million. It's not an industry, and it's in decline. And that's, I don't get this. What we should be doing at the end of this day is not advertising, engaging. Don't push message to us in a mobile device. Those things don't work. And I'd say most of the click-through rates are, based on my experience, are fat finger resulted. I hit it by accident. I hit a banner ad by accident. And when I do click one and you take me to your website, shame on you. Shame, shame, shame on you. We should be diving into a little bit more innovative ways of engaging with the customer. And banner ads aren't it. So I, for one, can't wait to see the day where a banner ad costs you $0 and we just get past it and we start innovating. Because what we're doing right now to the advertising industry in the mobile space is not good for mobile. It is not the same as web. It is not the same as TV. It is a new paradigm. Let's get over the banner ad.
I agree with you up to a point, Rob.
That's
I believe
the best part of this.
That's it is, yeah. Because I'm going to look at it differently. I'm going to say a couple things about the banner ad that I don't think are quite so bad. First of all, since we don't know what's available out in mobile, it does have a certain discovery function. However, and it does have, it is a part of an effective advertising strategy. However, it needs to be integrated. So if that's going to be, if we look at like a purchase funnel, and we say, okay, it's awareness, it's forgot the second one, sorry, awareness, consideration, conversion, loyalty. there's promotion, that part of it, getting my attention, getting me to consider your product, getting me to put it on my wish list or what have you. So it is important there. And it is important at other stages in the purchase funnel if it's done properly. I think that what we're seeing is that a number of companies, because they're frightened, they say, oh, mobile arrived, we need a mobile app, we need a mobile advertising strategy. I get calls like that too, and people saying that they've read something on Mobile Groove because it helps them figure out their strategy. They don't know what to do. It's great that they're starting, but it's not good to try and just catch up. You have a fast follower advantage if you want to use it. And if you want to use it, you can learn from the companies that just did all the banner ads and are saying, no, it's banner and then it's something on top of that. It's a call to action that makes sense. It's explaining why you need to click it in the first place. As I mentioned last time in our show, QR codes, great. Explain what they're for, and people might actually scan them. So, yes, it is a race to zero. It's very unfortunate, but I think that if we understand the strategy and the place of the banner ad in that great purchase funnel, it has its place, but it's up to the companies now to innovate around that. So really, format's not to blame. MMA came out with some guidelines, so we're clear on our banner ad formats finally. Everything's ready to roll if we just have the ideas, the innovation, the strategy.
I look forward to the book that you're talking about, because obviously mobile marketing, mobile advertising, they do go hand in hand. And I think we could have a really great discussion about the results of the outcome of that book. And I come from it from my perspective is very much not evolution, it's revolution. And from a purist standpoint, from a mobile first perspective. And I think, and I don't know what your opinion on this is, Peggy, but I think that if we really didn't have the internet, if we weren't reliant on the internet and we didn't bring banner ads over from the internet, we would have rethought the way that we use mobile as a marketing and awareness making technology. And I think that we're encumbered by the fact that we rely on the banner ad as a mechanism for awareness making on the web, and we brought that over to mobile. So I would challenge that, even if the MMA came out with their banner ad standards, I don't believe in that. I don't believe that we need a banner ad standard. I think we need a deeper marketing and engagement understanding in mobile. And it's kind of admitting our failures when we have standards for banner ads now. There are so many different ways to get engaged with a customer on a mobile device, and for me, a banner ad is not it. It's a nuisance. It's an annoyance, and you start to ignore those things. So, I as part of engagement, I see that very clearly. But the fact that the Mobile Marketing Association came out with a banner ad placement structure and guidelines tells me that we're not even there yet. They're not even there yet when it comes to how we should be using this tool. They're just bringing what is existing and modifying it over there. But that's just my opinion, and I am open to anybody out there who has a thought on this, who has a suggestion. And I know that we're going to get into this deeper when Peggy releases her book, because I think that this is a valid debate that needs to go on in the industry to push it forward and to push the people who are using these tools for their businesses forward. So, I'm touch and go on this.
Well, that's why we have one of our months is dedicated to mobile advertising, for one. And what I'm hoping is by then, everything will be very much in gear with this book, and I can talk about the sponsors behind it, and I can be more open about it. I mean, we're pulling together some of the editorial strategy at Mobile World Congress, but I'll be able to bring the interviewees back in here. We can talk about it. We can explore this, because there is a lot going on, some fascinating strategies out there, some thought leaders that, brands and CMOs and agencies that get it and understand that mobile has a place in the mix. Yes. And to your credit, it's exactly aligned with what also my friend, colleague, and just, a mobile pundit that we actually have to get on the show at some point, Rob, is Tommy Ahonen.
Yes.
He's awesome. If you follow his Twitter stream when you've had some coffee, you will appreciate it. And dear man that he is, I mean, he started us off calling it the seventh mass media, and also explaining that since it's a mass media, we need to understand it, and bringing us back, as I'm sure you're aware, to that old example of how we started out in commercials. The first commercial was that, I'm sure you know about it, the watch. It was just the picture of the watch, because we couldn't get our head around how we're going to move from radio to film and cinema. It's like, well, let's just show a picture, one still image, and talk. That will do it. And that's what we did. We went from internet, hey, it worked there, let's just make it smaller,
Yeah.
and it'll work just fine. And really, it is about the engagement. It's a personal device, and that's paramount. To understand that, you get that, you got the rest of it.
You do. And that's why it's so fascinating. And I can't wait for that month. I mean, that's going to be probably a very contentious month around how this is going to work. And because, you know what, commercialization, I'm all for it. Engagement with customers, I'm all for it. Turning customers or turning viewers into buyers, that's what the mobile has the power to do that. But there is, as you said, there are people that have been thinking about this for a long time, and what I hope is that we don't go down a path that ruins it, and we start talking about mobile version 2, like Internet 2, right? So let's leave this topic for now, and we're going to come back to it during our month. It's going to be good. I can't wait.
It's going to be awesome.
All right. So before we go into this, I just want to remind everybody that next month we're going to be diving into the developer world, and we've got some great guests lined up for the month to talk about mobile application development, banding together as groups, working with some of the larger partners like the carriers. I can't wait for this. We've just got Peggy's lined up some great guests for us, and we'll be next week. We'll be kicking this off with our first guest. It should be great. I'm looking forward to that as well. Developers, the heroes of mobile,
across the ecosystem, and if it really works out, we might have a special guest coming in from Windows Phone, which would be absolutely awesome because it's great to get it from the source.
It is. But this week, we're finishing off with our view on voice. Mary Meeker's Ear of the Year, whatever you want to call it. It's so important, and the impact of voice is so important on the mobile space. It's so important for businesses like Google. It's so important for businesses like Apple and Microsoft and Nuance, and that's who we're going to speak with today. It's Kenn Harper, Director of Product Management at Nuance Mobile. And I with everybody, Roberto last week, Kenn this week, I found so much value in this conversation, and I hope you guys do as well. And as Peggy's already highlighted, she's already highlighted her piece out of this that is key for you guys. But sit down, listen, enjoy Kenn as we kind of do a deeper dive into the impact that voice is going to have on mobile. Here's Kenn. It's that time again. It's time where we bring in the expert. It's enough that we've talked about these things. Now it's time to actually get it from the experts themselves. And today we've got joining us a company that has been around for a long time, 10 years, doing this, doing voice, moving it into mobile, extending this technology to make it much more natural, much more part of our lives. And I can't wait to get into this. Actually, we've got Kenn Harper, who's the Director of Product Management for Nuance Mobile, based out of Burlington, Massachusetts. Kenn, thank you so much for coming on and sharing a little bit about what the future of voice and mobile is. Thanks for coming on.
Glad to be here, Rob.
Well, it's such an exciting spot because we see, the impact that Siri has. Just one small little application on a pretty big platform can throw what you guys have been doing for 10 years into the limelight. Isn't it? It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
It is amazing, and this is the direction for the industry. We're looking to take sophisticated speech recognition software and combine that with natural language understanding, and when those two pieces are combined together, we can build some pretty remarkable experiences.
Well, was it that? Was it? You guys have been doing this for a long time, so obviously a good thing that Siri kind of brought this, or Apple brought this to the limelight with Siri, or was this just percolating below the surface and it was going to explode anyways?
I think it was mostly percolating below the surface. At some point, someone was going to deploy a really remarkable application that helped people use and interact with their devices in a new way. I think this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we're going to see over the next couple of years, though.
And let's talk about that for a second, because when you start to think about Nuance, why don't you give a little bit of a description of Nuance before we get really deep into this, so people really understand what you guys are doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So our singular focus is on leveraging speech recognition and natural language understanding technologies to make it easier for people to interact with their devices that they have in their lives every day. We serve a number of different industries: healthcare, enterprise, mobile handsets. We're really looking to change and transform the way that people interact with the devices that they have from day to day.
And Kenn, is there one industry that is stuck with you guys that is dominant more than the other?
We've been serving all three different industries for a very long time, but I think in terms of what we're most excited about, at least for me personally, being in the mobile handset business, this is really where I think the future is. And we're able to take our technology and greatly simplify how people use a mobile phone, a tablet, a TV, an automobile. All of these things are going to be connected in some way, and speech and natural language understanding is going to be at the forefront of it all.
So is there an area, Ken, where you see more opportunity than others? And the reason I'm asking this is because our last guest, Bill Mizell, he pointed out that he thought that really this is not just going to be everywhere, but also in particular it's going to be impacting customer service first.
That's right. I think the way that we look at it is that there's going to be an element of speech and language no matter what you're interfacing with. It could be a consumer electronic device. It could be you're placing a phone call and you're trying to get help about some information that you have with your financial institution. This is going to be a ubiquitous technology across all the different touch points that we have in our lives.
All right, so into the mobile space. Clearly, this is we're in the early stages, I would say, because I think people are just getting used to these devices. Touching the screen, and in the case of maybe a BlackBerry user, moving from the keyboard into touching the screen, and then you throw voice in there. But what's the long term? What do you think is the impact of voice when it comes to? I'm not talking phone calls. I'm talking about interacting with this as an assistant or as a as a technology. What's the impact that this is going to bring to mobile?
It's a good question. I think when you think about how operating systems and user interfaces have been designed thus far, it's really the desktop metaphor brought to a constrained device. And speech has really been something that was more of an afterthought. And I think what we're now going to see with speech and natural language, where people now have a sense of comfort in interacting with these systems, because these systems now really understand what they want to do. And these systems are able to empower a full spectrum of use cases, everything from dialing to get information from the web. Given how powerful these systems are, I think it's going to be more the epicenter moving forward when you think about how operating systems are designed from the onset.
And are you starting to see that now?
I think we are. I think with what Siri has done with their application, I think a lot of the handset manufacturers, a lot of operators are now convinced that this is a technology that people want to use. This is a technology that can greatly transform how people go about completing tasks on the go, in the case of the mobile handset market. And I think now that that recognition is clear, we're going to see some amazing experiences brought to market.
Such as, can you go into some detail about the scenarios that are more appropriate for voice and others? And since there is this interaction, this cross-media experience that we're talking about, where's the handoff between, say, for example, a voice mobile app and another way of interacting, be that PC or just something like email, for that matter?
Well, I think speech is going to be used across the range of possible use cases and the different devices that we interact with. I think one thing that we're going to see is that the experience is going to be more consistently applied across the different devices that we integrate into our lives. The same experience that you have on your mobile phone, there's an element of that should also be available on the TV. There's an element of that should also be available on the tablet. And I think what we're going to see over the next year is the types of things that you can do on one form factor are also going to be available on other form factors and other consumer electronic devices. Speech really is going to be much more ubiquitous. It's always around us. We're doing it to complete a full range of tasks.
So, it's really already there. That's why we're talking about. That's why we were so excited about, and that's why we've dedicated a whole month to it. I guess the question for me is, it's it's out of the bowling alley, crossing the chasm. It's here now, but there seems still to be some sort of hurdles there. Is it the technology? Is it getting the ecosystem together? What's holding it back from having that real impact?
I think one thing that's holding it back is just building a comprehensive application that does it all. Siri does a certain number of things and a certain number of things well, but it's really all in the area of phone control. Some of the things that we've recently focused on is an application like Drag and Go, which is based on the premise that we should greatly simplify how people access information from the web. When people are looking for a piece of information on the go, they don't want to browse the web. They want to get a very targeted piece of information, and that's how we've used natural language understanding recently to greatly reduce the distance between what someone wants and that end result. And I think in terms of what might be missing is building a more comprehensive experience that's deeply integrated into the mobile platform, where you can do everything. You can control any app, any service, you can find information from the web, and it's all subsumed under the single front-end experience. And to that point, I think what we're going to see is getting that technology so deeply integrated into the platform that it doesn't matter what application you might be interacting with, there's still an element of speech and natural language that is at your fingertips. That pervasive nature is something that's going to be very important for speech and language to be successful.
What about things like when should this be used? When shouldn't this be used? I think you just alluded to it there. There are people right now. We're talking about a technology or an enabling technology that people are going to jump on and start using it in unique ways. The way you isolated it there, saying that for finding things, it's very clear that this is disruptive to search engine, normal web-based search engines, because it doesn't matter where you find that information. If it's done by voice, you just get a response. It's not branded Google or branded Yahoo anymore. But where should this technology be used, and where shouldn't it be used? Do you have a thought on those?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, we feel that speech adds value in a number of different environments, but it's not going to be a technology that people use 100% of the time. I think one place where it's certainly going to be used is going to be in any environment where it's not convenient for you to be tactually interacting or visually interacting with the device. You're driving, you need to find some information. That's an experience that should be 100% eyes-free, hands-free. It's the safest way that you should be interacting with the phone. If you are cooking something in your kitchen, you might not want to actually have to pick up the phone to look up a recipe. You should be able to talk to your phone and get that information on demand. So I think whenever it's not convenient to have the phone physically in your hand, to be looking at the screen, that's a perfect environment where speech can be leveraged. With that said, we still think in environments, even when it is convenient to look at the screen, speech is still an enabling technology. It still can get people to the end result faster. And then once that information is served, they could use gestural and tactual input modalities to then consume that information. We don't have to look at this in a binary way. And it's not like speech is used here and other input modalities are used in different environments. There's some truth to that, certainly in the car. But there's also a lot of potential for us to bring these two things together and give consumers a lot of choice in how they go about completing tasks. I think from a user experience and design standpoint, that's going to be a big opportunity for us. How do we best combine speech, language, and gestural and tactual input? How do we create something that's far more powerful by using all those modalities together?
How do you do that? I mean, that's such a daunting task, right? We're just getting used to all these other input mechanisms like touch screen and certainly SMS and short text messages and the way that we interact with a touch screen on a keyboard. This has been something that we have learned like evolution through the ages, right? From keyboards all the way to where we are. Then how is that nuance, that pun intended, I guess, great name for the company, but that nuance between voice and then when you should take over with a gesture, when you should take over with a touch, or when you should take over with typing, how does that play out? That seems very complicated to me.
Yeah. Well, I think that the goal from the beginning is design it such that it's just instinctual for people. And I think that's what Apple got right with the iPhone. It was just how people wanted to interact with a mobile phone. You use your finger. You swipe left and right to browse different pages and navigate different views. Speech also falls into that category. People should just be able to speak to their phone the way that you would ask your assistant to go complete some task for you. So I think the goal from the onset has to be, how do we design these interfaces, leveraging these different input modalities, so people just pick up a phone and they know what to do. They can just do what makes sense and the right thing is going to happen. And that has to be the overarching goal here.
Of course, part of it is also making certain that there are enough apps out there that are voice-enabled or working in that direction. what are you doing to, first of all, make it just a little bit simpler? Because you're talking about holistic experiences, creativity, there's a lot of that needed, but then I guess there's just a lot of straight old-fashioned nuts and bolts putting it together. How hard is it for developers?
It's a really good question, and part of our goal is building, as I referenced earlier, this comprehensive, pervasive ecosystem on the phone. And there's only so much that we're going to be able to do. There are some core capabilities that we'll integrate in collaboration with our handset manufacturer customers. But we also, as you said, we need to have a program in place that makes it very easy for third parties to also integrate speech and language into their own apps. And at Nuance, in our mobile division, we do have a program. It's called NDev. It's a simplistic API that Android developers, iPhone developers can get access to quickly enable a speech experience inside of their own app. So we expose our dictation technology, our search technology, text-to-speech, so that developers can also take advantage of speech inside of their own applications. And we've seen tremendous success with this program, and I think this is where we need to go again to create that truly pervasive speech ecosystem on the handset.
So the whole idea is to power the voice component of all of these other apps. How does that work in your favor? You become the platform for this, and are you collecting information around to help your platform? Understand language better? Is there research going on behind the scenes during that process as well?
Yeah. I think we're going to be both providing a platform. For third parties, we're providing the core service, but we're also going to be building our own applications, where we're applying our own design leadership to build that comprehensive experience that I talked about earlier, doing everything from phone control to making it very easy for people to get information from the web. So I think both are going to be very important for us. And across our platform efforts and our application efforts, we want to collect a lot of data so that we can make these systems more intelligent. We can increase the accuracy. We can increase the precision of the information that we're returning when someone asks for something. These systems are going to continue to be dynamic in the sense that we want to make them better by leveraging information we're able to collect from the field.
So if for example, you guys become the platform for a lot of these apps to be built on. Which, I mean, it seems logical. You open it up, open up your API, and let people build on it. It's such a shift from where your business was. The desktop side of the business, where there's probably larger margins than free ultimately. I mean, how does this impact you guys? Where do you guys see the revenue side of this coming through? Is it through advertisements? Is it through enabling a licensing model? Is there something that you guys have obviously given this thought?
Yeah. Well, I mean, right now our goal really is about helping our direct customers, handset manufacturers and operators, create great user experiences. That is the goal for us right now. It's about transforming the way that people interact with the mobile phone or the tablet or the TV. Longer term, certainly there is some other revenue potential, in the area of what we've done with an application like Drag and Go, where we're greatly simplifying how people get access to information from the web.
Tell people,
certainly there are some revenue schemes we'll explore there.
Go ahead and tell people what Drag and Go is, just in case they don't know.
Yeah, so Drag and Go is an application that leverages both speech recognition and natural language. When you ask for something like a sports score or a weather, we're not just transcribing the words coming out of your mouth. We're also trying to apply meaning to those words. And by applying meaning to those words, what we try to do in Drag and Go is classify, well, what is it that you're looking for? Is it a domain related to sports? Is it a domain related to business listings? Is it a domain related to a restaurant reservation? And based on that classification that we're able to do, we then take someone specifically to a site, pass in the information that was recognized so that someone can actually see the information that they requested. And the problem that we were trying to solve with this application is, right now one of the most painful things to do is get information on. You have to open up the browser, you have to type in what you're looking for, you then have to navigate a list of blue links. And we felt that wasn't a great experience. It's not how people want to consume information when they're out in the world. And so Drag and Go, you just press a button, you ask for something, and then we immediately take you to a site that might be relevant to what it is you asked for. And another really powerful element of Drag and Go is this notion of a carousel that we've built in, where we're not just taking you to one site, we're taking you to one site that we think is most relevant to the task you're looking to complete, but we also have a number of supplementary sites in this carousel that people can then navigate between using left and right gestural feedback.
So it's already begun for you guys, that transition. I mean, obviously this is your business, but the handoff from voice to gesture to touch and all that. I mean, you guys are not just talking about this. You guys are doing this in your own application. So you're building a solid knowledge base.
Inside of Drag and Go, it's speech recognition, it's natural language understanding, it's textual input, bringing those three things together. And across all the applications that we're going to be building this year that leverage natural language understanding, finding that perfect marriage across the different input modalities is going to be something that's really important to us.
All right. What about security? People are going to be. This is going to be a concern, obviously, for many reasons. But obviously, walking down the street, enabling some kind of voice recognition on your device or anything along those lines, or even at your on a personal computer or television set. What are the security implications? Are there any, or is it just the same as we're going through right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of information that we're going to be looking to collect, it's all about making the experience better. If we know what someone has done in the past, we can use that information to better return more relevant results. We can use that information to optimize accuracy. I think when it comes to security and privacy, I think the biggest issue that we're seeing across the industry is there just isn't the level of transparency that there needs to be to help people understand why information is being collected and how it's being used. And I think that's just something, again, speaking broadly from an industry perspective, I think that's something that needs to change. If we can really talk to consumers about why we're collecting information, how it's being used, how is it going to ultimately create a better experience, then I think people won't be as hesitant to opt in to different license agreements.
I'm also thinking, just going back to your point about your carousel, that's a fascinating model, Ken. You could also bring some more transparency into that experience. Why are certain things showing? Why are they relevant? Where's the value add in that experience? Have you thought that through?
Yeah, I think that's something that we're going to be working on. It's creating that level of transparency so that people understand when certain things come back in the carousel, why were we able to actually return that? A lot of times just reading it on screen, it doesn't make sense to someone. But if they can actually experience how we were able to do something that's far more intelligent because of some information that we were tracking, then I think people will start to understand the value of this. It's definitely something that we're going to continue to investigate here.
If I could just interject, that point about value, that's what I find particularly intriguing, because this is an entirely, as Rob mentioned, you're evolving, and this is a different discussion of value and value add than I would have originally expected. So I guess the question for me is, what is Nuance, at least the mobile part of Nuance, going to be looking like? What's the end game here?
Yeah, I mean, our end game is to take speech recognition, natural language understanding, and get those technologies so deeply integrated into the mobile platform that it doesn't matter if you're in the dialer, if you're in the SMS client, or if you're in some mapping application, there's an element of speech that's available. These speech systems are contextually aware. These speech systems understand what you're doing and why. It's able to use that information to support even more natural expressions. So I think the end game for us is using speech, natural language for anything and everything that someone might want to do on a mobile phone, and have natural language understanding power it all. People should be able to have the confidence to launch the system, speak the way they want to speak, and the system can figure out what it is that they're looking to do. That is the end game for us.
It's pretty powerful. What about beyond these devices? One of the things that is great about mobile is that I think it's taught us to think a little in more simpler terms. Interface-wise, UI, UX, all of that. We've kind of come back to that pure form of getting things done, so to speak, on a device. How does the voice then jump Oh, jump the shark. It's terrible. But how does it jump the shark to other devices? And does it do that? Does it move to TV? There's a lot of talk about Siri on television and extending voice to television and other appliances. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. What we're going to be doing is taking the same platform that we've developed and applying it across the TV, across the automobile, across the tablet. And furthermore, what we want to do is create more personalized experiences across these different devices. If someone is using a mobile handset and we've optimized the system for that particular user, that same data that we're using to optimize the experience should also be used in other areas, in other electronics where that customer is having similar interactions. So if you go from your mobile handset to the TV, that information should be available, and we should use that within our platform so that someone always has a great experience.
I love it. Kenn, this has been great. You know what? I figure we could probably dive into this for a much longer conversation, and I think that as this year progresses, it would be great to kind of bring you back and figure out if this is actually happening or not, or it's evolved. And we always talk about this. This is a great year for this, the year of the voices. As Peggy's mentioned, Mary Meeker calls it the year of the ear, and I think that this is something that that I'm very interested in following up later on in the year to see, has this come to fruition? Are we moving these things forward, or is it next year that we're going to start to see the real evolution of voice? And for you guys, 10 years plus into this, you saw this, you've seen this, you're patient enough to get through this. And I'm pretty sure that it doesn't matter if it happens in 2013 or 2014. It's that you guys are going to be there ready for it, aren't you?
Yeah, this is an exciting time for us. There's a lot that we're going to be announcing this year, and as an industry as a whole, I think speech and language really is going to be at the forefront of the discussion moving forward. So
I can't wait.
Couldn't be in a better industry right now.
I can't wait. Kenn, thank you so much for doing this. We've been speaking with Kenn Harper, who's the Director of Product Management for Nuance Mobile, based out of Massachusetts, and a Yankees fan, I must say. Nice.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, Kenn.
Thank you, Kenn.
That is why I love what we're doing here, Peggy, is that when you get a guy like Kenn to come on and talk about that, he's very candid. Great conversation. All three of our guests in the space have been very candid. And you can see the excitement that finally this industry has arrived into mainstream, where these guys have been working. Nuance is a 10-plus-year-old company. They've been working on this stuff for that long. And finally the right medium for them is coming through very clearly, and they understand how important voice is. And Kenn, obviously, great ambassador for Nuance. We really appreciate Kenn Harper, Director of Product Management at Nuance Mobile, coming on and doing this. Thanks, Kenn, if you're listening. Really appreciate it. It is that time. Goblet.
Yes. And you're up, Rob. It's
Goblet
your
of
gob.
Rock. I got to tell you, I am a big fan of a company called Chaotic Moon. These guys are in Austin, the hub of activity, South by Southwest. These guys are right in the middle of it. Chaotic Moon is the company, you may have heard of them. They did Rupert Murdoch's The Daily, obviously a very controversial daily newspaper, only available on tablets. They did, there's a monster at the end of the book. It's a Sesame Street book that my kids absolutely love. It's Grover. I read that book when I was a kid, and they did a great digital representation of that on a tablet. They've done, they've worked with Microsoft. They've worked with some of the biggest brands. But one of the things that is so amazing is their lead evil genius. His name is Worley. He's an old augmented reality guy. Old because he's an expert in augmented reality, but he's also literally an evil genius. Tim O'Reilly, whose company, O'Reilly, talks about makers. And Worley is a maker. He's an inventive maker. And about maybe 2 months ago at CES, they came out with something called the Board of Awesomeness, which is, I think we've talked about this, which is a long board with a Windows 8 tablet attached to the front. Attached to that is an Xbox Kinect. Put a helmet on, use your hand motions to go forward, back, and stop. So it's a powered longboard by an Xbox Kinect and a Windows 8 tablet. Pretty amazing, hence the name Board of Awesomeness. They have just this week pushed out something called the Board of Imagination, and this is even beyond anything that you can imagine. I'm going to run the video right now. By the power of magic, the video will play, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to raise my goblet to this because you will be astounded. Here's the video.
Hi, I'm Phil.
And I'm Worley, and we're here to show you the follow-on to the Board of Awesomeness, the Board of Imagination, which instead of being powered by a Kinect, is powered by this emotive headset. Phil, you want to tell them how it works?
Let's just start with the board from the top in case you missed our wonderful Board of Awesomeness. We actually have the brains behind this, the Samsung tablet running Windows 8 developer preview. We actually have our USB cable that runs up underneath where we connect in with our wireless transmitter for our headset. It detects your brain waves. It actually figures out where you want to go. You imagine yourself being there, and it actually takes you forward.
Piloting the board is pretty simple. It's actually a lot easier than our first version. What you do is you take the emotive headset, and once you've made sure that the contacts are moist, you simply put it on your head, adjust it right above your ears, make sure all of the contacts are in the right position, and then it starts picking up the signals from your brain. So that's how you make it go. So basically what I'm doing is imagining a point in the future, getting closer, and then stopping.
So what you just saw there was an emotive epoch headset on top of Worley, and that through the Windows 8 tablet controlling the motion of that longboard by thought. Come on, does it get any cooler than that? That's why when you start to think about this, it's innovative ways of using mobile, the tablets, smartphones. He's talking about some stuff that is just incredible that will launch next week. But when you start to think about that, this Worley was going 32 miles an hour down the road with nothing but his mind attached to a mobile device. Now that is what we're talking about, innovation. Who knows where it goes, but it's guys like that that push the boundaries of this space, and for that, come on.
Absolutely.
You have to raise the Goblet of Rock.
You have to.
To Worley. Worley. Good job, buddy. I got to sit down with Worley for 20 minutes, late last night. Depending on when you're watching this, but it was late, the night that they launched the Board of Imagination. No sleep for 48 hours. We spoke for 25 minutes. He walked through the whole process. It's up on Untethered. It's just an incredible story and an incredible guy, and very honored to have sat down with him. But from the Board of Awesomeness to the Board of Imagination, Worley, Goblet of Rock.
Absolutely. So you have that show. You interviewed him for another one of your segments. Is that it?
I did, and
okay.
I feel very honored. He reaches out once when he does these things, because I'm just we're all geeks at heart when it comes to this kind of stuff, and these are the things that we saw in Star Trek in the 60s and early 70s, and Star Wars, and he's making these things, and he's making it from things that are not prohibitive for you and I to go and do. If we really wanted to go hurtling down the road on a longboard at 32 miles an hour being powered by your brain, it's a $500 headset and a Windows 8 tablet, a longboard, and go, right? And he's going to open source this project. He's going to push all of how they did it up there. He doesn't want to make a dime out of it. He's moving the industry forward. He's advancing this kind of stuff, and that's what I love about it. Good on her. Good on her.
Now, open source. Now, that's even better. So definitely.
Yeah.
Goblet of Rock to that.
That's it, Peg. We are done. I don't have anything left to say. It's amazing,
That's
isn't it?
That's not true. We just ran out of time. We have lots to say.
Yeah, exactly. Me not having anything to say. So we start our next group of guests around the developer community, starting with the next episode. Peggy's going to be at Mobile World Congress. You have to go and find her and talk to her. If you're listening to this, please do so. Where can they find you at Mobile World?
First of all, my mobile number is public. It's on the site. I have no problems with that. Find me. I'll be spending all day Thursday in App Planet, definitely. So I'll be up there in the App Zone. And other than that, I got some slots. And then there's some great parties, not parties, right? But networking opportunities that I'll be attending, and just connect with me, and we'll figure it out.
That's great, Peggy. Find Peggy at mobilegroove.com or at Peggy Ann on Twitter. You can find me at untether.tv or at Rob Woodbridge on Twitter. We look forward to some feedback. So if you've enjoyed this, what are your thoughts on the way voice is going, the way voice control in mobile is going? What do you think of Whirly's longboard ride from your mind? We'd love some feedback. Just reach out wherever you see this, either on mobilegroove.com or on tether.tv. Leave a comment. Send email to untether@gmail.com. Peggy at mobilegroove.com.
Peggy at mobilegroove.com, yeah. Mm-hmm.
We'd love to hear from you. Love some feedback. But until the next episode, that's it. Impulse number 7. Done. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening or watching.
Thank you.